Hello and welcome, Rangers. I'm Joe. Dan will be here in a few minutes. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. And we're discussing, on rather short notice, the OG trio. And I'm trying to hook up to Kick, but because I was told it's a streaming site like Twitch, but I seem to be having problems with that. So I'll just remove and we'll just throw Twitter up there. And even though I've not seen any Twitter people ever in the feed of sorts, so we'll see how that works. I can't wait for Storyfire to hook up to streaming and whatnot, because Storyfire is where our other audience is. So do follow us on Storyfire.
Hey, Porter.
Hello, Porter. And I believe we had promised to include you in the next stream, so I gotta find Twitch. This one is going to be about the OG trio in the latter half of season 2 of Power Rangers. Let me mute this because I just remembered Twitch is always pretty loud. Now, the original trio started off a bit more the quiet characters and the less, I don't want to say developed, but like in some ways in life, they were a little more behind the other three, because Jason, Zach, and Trini were further along in martial arts. They were more confident than Kimberly, Billy, and Tommy early on were. Tommy had a lot of strength and was obviously probably the best martial artist on the team. But the problem is the Green Ranger incident completely shattered what little confidence he had. And even before that, he showed himself to be a little shy. Oh, and we've got someone over on at YouTube. Hello, Stephen, listen. Power Rangers. Yes, all about Power Rangers. One of our favorite topics to stream about. I'm just going to adjust the camera because
maybe
I just cut off a portion of our heads. There. Yep. Feeling a little better. Hopefully. But and tomorrow we'll be streaming everyone about some Conan and Heroic Signatures related news. That would be over on our main channel, but just figure I'll mention that. But for those on Twitch, it'll be at the same place, because we generally stream everything on Twitch as well, because why not? Let's try to build that platform up. We'd probably stream on Rumble, but because Rumble's linked to our YouTube account, everything we make and do on YouTube is automatically transferred to Rumble. So don't see the point. Any Pokemon soon?
Yeah, we're starting with Pokedex
stuff over on the Poke Corner. But if it's Poke Gaming you want and you'd rather join in on for a stream, Porter, we could do that instead. I don't play much Pokemon, but we could set that up and the three of us could play if you prefer that. I got no problems.
Okay.
Any, to be honest.
All right.
Well, you're going to be a bit more. We're going to need you to decide which you prefer, because if you prefer Power Rangers, we'll invite you today. But if you prefer Pokemon, all right, Pokemon it is.
Okay.
So actually, we desperately need to do stuff for the Poke Corner. So
Yeah. We're starting to pick that back up.
Yeah, that might be on Friday. So I'm thinking on Friday because that's my last day off before I go back to work. Then I'm on call all of next week with about 5-6 shifts, I think, throughout the week. No problem. So Pokemon it is on Friday. You could let us know in the chat the time. I hope Steven Listen doesn't mind us arranging all this. Happy to talk Power Rangers now.
Okay.
Well, for now, I know how uncomfortable it can be with the phone, so we'll try to spearhead on ahead. With Kimberly, Tommy, and Billy, they were often kind of put more in the, I don't want to say the damsel role, but kind of the position of being kind of, well, Kim was often the insecure one who messed up or was often targeted and bullied of sorts by Bulk and Skull or Rita. Tommy was often left feeling insecure as well. And you had Billy, who, while insecure, was a weak link in terms of the martial arts and whatnot. So that the three were often the targets, but in different ways. Billy is very different from Kimberly, let's say. And Kim was, in essence, how do I put it? She was attacked in a way that, okay, she came off as a little girl. And so she'd be targeted, as might say Cinderella be in the old 1950s Cinderella story. Or, like, she was attacked in a very catty way, is what I'm trying to say. Tommy was, it was evident that Rita and later Zed were trying to grind him down.
Constantly reminding him of the situation where he was mind controlled.
Or, well, more like they were trying to just get him to overstretch his powers.
Yeah.
And overextend himself. Billy was often very, very vulnerable and was someone whom how do I put it? He didn't have any confidence physically and was kind of sheltered. During the time ASGA, Walter, and Dewey left, the other three became a bigger focus and worked well together. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's something we noted and I absolutely loved.
And rewatching the series, we did notice that for a while, because the three walked off, there was about 5-6 episodes where the three of them were the focus: Kimberly, Billy, and Tommy.
Well, they were almost the focus of the first half of season 2.
Yeah.
Because season 2 is what, like 30 to 40 episodes? So it's more than just 5-6 episodes, Dan.
Yeah. I'm talking about when the three walked off.
Yeah, to an extent.
They had to bring up all these...
But I think it was closer... I think it was a bit more than that. A few more episodes than that. But, yeah. But the other... Now, I'm going to make a weird argument, and I hope not too many people go, unsubscribe, is that the trouble is, much as I really love Zach, and much as, now I'm not going to count Trini here, there was still a plot thread for Trini to pursue. The one with that Richie guy. That was pretty much all you had left to the character. But with Jason, there was, for the moment, along with Zach, nothing you could do with the characters. Outside the Richie thing, there was nothing you could do with Trini. Now, my argument is just in terms of writing, they had written themselves into a corner because, like, with Jason. Now, the beauty of the Divatox plot of the Turbo movie is that it opens up new possibilities and new plot points for Jason. So Jason should be used afterwards. But within the context of just Mighty Morphin, what are you going to do with Jason? He's going to get angry. You're going to have Goldar or someone taunt him about the Tommy Green Powers thing. That was all that you could, like, that was the only stuff that they were able to do with Jason. And even then, it was starting to get to be an overused trope.
It's like all you could do with Jason at that point was try and have him beat Goldar.
Yeah, well, okay, admittedly, that was something they needed to do. So they needed him to beat Goldar. They didn't do it. They needed Trini to probably hook up with Richie. They didn't do it. Now with Zach, he had scored Angel. Like, he had hooked up. I'm a Zach fanboy, but there's nothing left to do with the character. So much as I like these three, you kind of need them. It's a little coincidental, but you did need to kind of change and transfer the powers.
And
to an
funny
extent.
enough,
I'm coming at it from a writer's perspective. And the thing is, outside of the two hanging plot threads, not like, if I was the writer, I'd be like, well, not much else we can do. We need a new red, black, and yellow Rangers. We need new ones because these guys were finished. All they're going to be doing going forward is either rehashes or they have to play support role to the other three. That's the sad problem. Now, the beauty of bringing them back in later seasons is you open up new plot threads, you open up new ideas and whatnot. I still think that there should have been a season with Zach as a mentor or something, or Trini could have come back, or Jason could have come back in a later season. Trini should have probably come back in Lightspeed Rescue or something. Maybe on medical staff or something, or as a consultant. And maybe, or as a vet they happened to run into or something. Zach would have worked better coming back in a later season as a Ranger, having to confront the fact that he essentially had fatigue towards being a Ranger and him falling back in love with being a Ranger. And Jason, no matter what, he was going to come back eventually. He was. I just think In Space was a perfect timing for him because final Zordon season. But enough of my griping, I guess. Whereas with Kimberly, Billy, and Tommy, there was a extremely large amount of plot threads hanging. You had a lot you had to do with the characters. Billy was still lacking confidence to a limited extent at the start of season 2. Tommy was struggling with the green powers. And, well, then you have the power transfer to White of sorts. And at that point, him as team leader is natural and you need to progress that. Kimberly, well, they finally got her in a relationship with Tommy, but the other thing is, this isn't just the relationship should not be the end, but a new beginning in a way. And Kimberly coming into her own and taking up a greater and greater role as a team leader as well alongside Tommy is a fascinating route, and that needed exploration. And with Billy, just a quick note, also stepping into a bit of a role of semi-mentor, semi-student with Rocky, and that bromance, and even a bit of a bromance of sorts with Aisha, this opens other possibilities in terms of characterization. So the thing about this trio is there were still things to do with them. They needed to do more, is my point. But I don't now real quick, just to go back. Yes, I completely agree that they worked really well together. Rod Kiersey. You completely nailed it. I don't blame Austin, Walter, and Dewey because they were asked to now do costume fights too, doubling the work with the same pay. Exactly. And we got to remember that they were being paid negligibly, and that this has been confirmed by David Yost, Amy Jo Johnson, and GDF. They were being paid well below their weight, what they should have been paid. They were not unionized when they to have been part of, I think, what is it, the Actors Guild of America or something. And on top of that, we know from David Yost and GDF that they were being verbally abused by people behind the scenes. And this massive amount of abuse would have a lasting impact on the likes of Jason David Frank and David Yost. And I believe there have been other Ranger actors who confirmed there was a lot of abuse thrown in the direction of these two actors' way, which I really can't understand. Okay. Now, I don't really care what people do in their own bedroom, so the David Yost thing never really, I never understood why they'd shame him. That's his issue. But the thing with GDF, he was the guy who rescued your franchise, and you're going to verbally trash him. It's flabbergasting. This is the guy who saved your careers and your production cast, and you're going to trash him? I don't get it.
He's the one that brings in the money.
Yeah, I didn't care how David Yost was treated. We fans didn't know. I didn't care to know that was his personal life. Exactly. Now, I imagine in the 90s, there probably would have been a bit of backlash about him being homosexual. But then in the following decade, people kind of relaxed and said, well, not really our concern. We're more concerned about more important things, which, fair enough. And I think that given I was a kid, I wouldn't have understood one way or the other. But as a youngster in the early 2000s to mid 2000s, I would have probably taken the attitude, not my problem. And today I take the attitude, not my problem. Well, I guess it comes with also having a close personal friend who's homosexual. So we never really cared. We just kind of accepted it as norm.
I always found that celebrity gossip was
yeah, but the worst part was they did abuse Yost, and they really shouldn't have, especially considering how great an actor he was and how he was also rescuing the franchise. Because let's be honest, there was a lot of Billy episodes, and Billy was very popular, right behind Tommy and Kimberly. Actors' pay disparity is rife in the industry. Yes, Borg, you're absolutely right. Always has been. Orientation shouldn't matter. You do your job fine. Nothing else should matter. Exactly. That's exactly what we kind of think. And, oh, wow, he types fast. Work politics always get in the way. Yeah. Yeah. Actually.
It can get cliquish.
Yeah. I've learned that at my new job. But I can't say much more. But anyways. Yeah, but with the characters themselves, although real quick, it's also interesting because I think Joe Johnson, GDF, and Yost were all fairly friendly behind the set, behind the camera and whatnot. They were fairly friendly between each other. Well, I know that David Yost and GDF were very close because GDF, I think starting around the late 90s or something, cracked a lot of jokes about if he was gay, he'd date Yost. And Yost the two had a bit of a relationship like siblings, where Yost was almost the older sibling between the two. And I just know that because I kept track of their social media feeds for almost 15, almost 20 years. The two were constantly appearing together. everywhere on each other's social media. And even at a young age, I kind of understood that GDF was kind of emotionally codependent on David Yost. And now that, what happened with GDF, I kind of think that there was, there was more to it than what we thought, and that maybe to an extent it was not kind of GDF protecting Yost behind the scenes sometimes or something. At least that's, I think, the impression I got at one point. But maybe the reverse, where Yost was kind of supporting GDF emotionally and was keeping him like afloat. Because the two have had a very great bromance. Christopher Keeman Lee was told by Shuki Levi when the ratings went up, and he was told the show would continue, but without him and the others, we will now reboot every year. Oh boy. Yeah, they eventually decided that they'd just start new seasons with new cast every season, which, not gonna lie, some things were great in the new seasons. I mean, the Psycho Rangers.
Yeah, that
you were gonna mention that.
The Psycho Rangers I absolutely loved.
There's Trakina,
great villainous.
I really liked Vipera, but this might sound weird, but I still maintain there's something missing in my head with these newer seasons, because I always ask myself, how are they linked to the OG series? Like, how does the situation with, say, how does Andros and the drama surrounding him, how does it connect to the Power Rangers? Like the OG guys. What is their view on the situation in space? What are they up to? And on the other hand, oh, well, we'll have Zordon die and in space. Well, how come, when the situation was going down, how come nobody had the thought, let me get the phone. Hey, Tommy, we need you for a weekend. Or, hey, Jason. How come they didn't have that thought? I'm just saying. Those Rangers would have come in handy. So, yeah. And I also wondered, given Ventura, I think it is, with Lost Galaxies, how come none of the Rangers ever had the idea, you know what, I want to start over? What if one of them had said, like Zach or something, let's take to the stars. I want to go out there. Why stay on Earth? And let's, it was like, I kind of get the impression, the way they show, now I love the Lost Galaxies premiere, but the way they show it is almost like how, when I read about the colonist de la France of France venturing off for the new world. It's like, this is exciting. This is a new start. We are going to escape the problems of the old world and set up shop in a new place. We're starting over. It's a new life. Did any of the other, even when it comes to the in space cast, were there any of those characters who went, that sounds cool? So I'm just confused with, how does this connect to the original stuff?
Mm-hmm,
this Jason, for example, or Zach, I could see them going on that ship.
Yeah, what's wrong with, there's nothing wrong with Zach, instead of Damon as the Green Ranger, having Zach play it, not just a ranger, but a mentor.
That would have been cool. I never thought of that.
Yeah, or even TJ.
Yeah. I think swapping up the cast so frequently has the capacity to upset the viewers a lot more. Makes for a messy understanding too, as you point out. Okay. Yeah. Now, I imagine Rob Kiersey is going to very valiantly argue the other point of view, which, yeah. Because from NPR to In Space, the actors on the show at least got to be in 2 seasons. Oh yeah. I totally agree. Now, see, that's why I got so attached to Cassie and TJ, and even to an extent Carlos. Ashley, I liked, but I didn't find her character as how do I put it? Um, as gripping as say Cassie, because Cassie's actress was charismatic. Much as I love TJ, I think that of all the Pink Rangers, outside Kim, Cassie was probably the best. And in some ways, I actually like Cassie more than Kim. Now I know that's kind of heresy in some circles. It's just Cassie just had spunk, and I just ended up thinking she was like a female Jason. Where like the thing is, she was a little more feisty. Kimberly can be feisty, but Kimberly was much more feminine, and I appreciate that, and I really like that in her character. But on the other hand, Cassie was much more combative, much more short-tempered, in some ways more short-sighted than Kim, because Kim was a natural leader, and though she was insecure and sometimes short-sighted, she quickly outgrew some of those traits and became a much more far-sighted, wise individual. So that I appreciated having a Pink Ranger in training again, in a way.
And I would have liked to see her as an active ranger again.
Yeah. Now, the reason why I highlight Cassie so much as a good back to the beginning in place of, say, Kat, is that Kat, in some ways, was more like Trini. What is it? Type B personality, is it?
Yeah.
Much more like that. And while I did really like Kat as a character, having rewatched Zeo recently, I just think that she didn't have the same magnetic pull as, say, Kim or Cassie.
Part of me, kind of think of it, part of me thinks that Kat may have approached dance like Trini approached martial arts.
Yeah, pretty much.
They had a very similar philosophy, as you mentioned.
Well, it's just that the characters are very similar in some ways, and I do like them, but I think that Kim and Cassie are more commonly on people's favorite female characters or Pink Rangers lists for a reason, and I get it. They're very magnetic, charismatic characters. Like if Cassie became second in command or a leader of a team, you could see it.
Yeah.
And actually, she should have at some point because she's a great character.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think TJ is there. There goes that itch. TJ, yeah, he was just the best character. But anyways, sorry. I'm not the, like, I know a lot of people love In Space, and I'm not as much of a fan of In Space. I'm not bashing. I'm not saying I hate it. I actually enjoyed a good chunk of the season. It's more like I'm kind of more lukewarm about that season, whereas Lost Galaxies, MMPR, Lightspeed Rescue, I really love these seasons. But the thing about In Space is it is integral in the overall franchise history. You can't have Lost Galaxies, Lightspeed Rescue, or any of the later seasons without In Space. And In Space is the natural successor to Turbo. And I find that while I disregard season 3 of Mighty Morphin to a large extent, season 2 flows and the movie flow very naturally towards Zeo, and Zeo flows very naturally towards Turbo, and very natural, well, except for the comedic elements, and very naturally towards In Space. So, yeah. It was nice having the same characters for 2 seasons. Yeah, I wish they could have had Tommy and Countdown to Destruction. Yeah, they really should have. Although I did see a few episodes of Lost Galaxy, they did have some things from In Space carry over to Lost Galaxy. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they had a In Space team up with Lost Galaxy. Yeah, that was one of the best parts. And I really liked. I wish that it was longer. I know that's weird, but I just think that the Psycho Ranger arc in Lost Galaxy was awesome. And I wish it was longer and that the Psycho Ranger's abilities were more highlighted and powered up so that we could see the Rangers struggle a little more. Now, they did struggle enough, but like, I just really love the Psycho Rangers as villains. I really like them. They're such great villains. But I actually think that they should have totally had at some point a Silver Turbo Psycho Ranger, and maybe throw that at Tommy just for fun.
Yes, that would have been indeed.
The only problem is that if there's any Ranger who could solo a Psycho Ranger, it's Tommy. So actually, on second thought, maybe that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe Tommy and Kim could solo Psycho Rangers, but I don't know about. I think they might be the only ones, so I don't know if that really works in hindsight. Maybe instead Ryan from Lightspeed Rescue versus a Psycho. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I liked him.
Yeah, blasted stock footage.
Yeah,
because they could have used him far more. He had a very good story.
Yeah, but anyways, back to the OG trio. Hey, Austin McNeil. Hope you're well. But yeah, we're. I'm just gonna check something. Oh yeah. We're the trio were forced to work more and more together, as Kiersey pointed out, and doing so very well. The trio were already partway through season 1, kind of getting more attention, anyways. I would argue, because if you pay attention, they are the three who got the most amount of episodes. Well, Tommy, not as much as Billy and Kim, because Kim and Billy are getting all the attention. Because why not? And the thing is about that is that you can't really have Mighty Morphin Power Rangers without Kim and Billy. Within, like, what, 20, maybe 30 episodes, it was very clear that these are the two main characters to an extent. Now, you can have Turbo, you could have Zeo, you could have Lost Galaxy in space without them. But Mighty Morphin kind of revolves around them to an extent, although I do think they needed to expand to other characters, of course. And they did, which is great. But the thing is, Mighty Morphin became about, at least season 1, became about Kim and Billy. Tommy was in and out of the season, which was annoying, tiring. But with season 2, he was bumped up to main cast, thank heavens. Otherwise, Power Rangers probably would have died, because GDF was a charismatic guy, and people really liked the Green Ranger, which, yeah, good for them. The trouble is that this trio went from, well, in universe, Tommy gets the White Ranger abilities, and the tricycle wheels are removed because Billy always counted on Thuy to cover up for his mistakes in the field or to help him out, and even to an extent Zach or Jason. Tommy was semi-dependent on Kim and Jason as Green Ranger. He just was. Kim was very much kind of dependent on Trini and, to a lesser extent, Tommy. But with Tommy becoming the White Ranger, he was suddenly able to bloom and didn't have to constantly worry about his powers shorting out. While for Kim, by this time, she's starting to step out of the insecure Valley Girl role and into blossoming into a powerful mighty and fierce, well, I don't know, warrior woman. While as for Billy, I'd almost, well, no, I'm not going to argue he was kind of just to say behind Kim and Tommy because he had by this time become a powerful warrior. The only thing is, Billy was kind of third wheel because, Tommy and Kim. Arguably, maybe Tommy was kind of lagging behind a tad in confidence. And I think just needed to catch up a little on that front because Green Ranger messed him up bad. But in the latter part of season 2, with the whole Green Ranger returning and whatnot, that and having to step more and more into a leadership role, Tommy blossoms and becomes the great Ranger we all know and love, which, that's important. So we've got, and now what I love about Billy in the second, like in the post-Canyon Trio period of Power Rangers, is he's really confident. I just love that he became a badass and that he's taking charge. He's kicking enemies around and taking names. And from the power transfer and onwards, there's almost not a single episode I don't love. And I think most of our reviews were 3 stars to 4 stars, most of them?
I think so.
Because those episodes are just, oh man, they're awesome. And when it comes to bonding with the Stone Canyon Trio, you've got a whole new series of relationships. You've got Tommy, who really seems to take Adam under his wing as a bit of a big brother, little brother thing. You have Billy, who seems to initially dislike Rocky. But Billy and Rocky kind of, they really scrape and Rocky really rubs Billy the wrong way. But then Billy quickly starts to take to him. It's interesting that those two had the closest relationship between the OG Trio and the Stone Canyon Trio.
They were opposites.
Mm-hmm.
You had the cool, rational Billy that was essentially loved his science experiments, approached the entire battle against Rita and Zed like it was a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And you had Rocky. Well, Rocky just wants to have fun.
Yeah, and that was the episode where they really rubbed each other the wrong way.
Where he's far more chill and relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's the clown of the group, but he looks out for everyone.
He's a weird mix between Jason and Adam. Not Jason and Adam. Jason and Rocky, I mean, Zach, geez, I can't think or talk today. Blah. Anyways, Aisha and Kim quickly became besties. So there wasn't as much of a clash, but it's interesting that Kim had to learn not to always take Aisha's side. And she quickly got a crash course in Aisha's flaws with the whole firefight episode, the fire awareness episode. Tommy got a crash course in how being boyfriend and to your girlfriend and having to put up with her crazy friends isn't always fun. And that was actually, I think, one of the few times where him and Kim did clash.
Oh, yeah.
Kim saw it as, well, Aisha's my bestie, so I'm immediately going to take her side, and you have Tommy. Yeah, but she's in the wrong.
Yeah. And then there's the class president episode.
Yeah, that was but that was Billy and Aisha kind of accidentally and sometimes purposely, to an extent, causing a squabble.
Yeah.
And then Zed just tossing a few hand grenades, pun intended, into it. But then I also like that you have Kim and Adam who bond. You have Adam and Billy who kind of bond. You have Aisha and Billy who very quickly develop a friendship. You have Aisha and Tommy who, after the initial clash, develop an interesting relationship, friendship, where Tommy seems to treat and depend upon Aisha like he did Zach in a way, because she's a very reliable fighter. She's just a berserker. I'm going to argue that the person with the closest fighting style to her is probably Leo Corbett from Lost Galaxy.
A very aggressive yet efficient style.
Yeah. All right. It would have been really awesome if Jason stayed with the team and Billy was left. No. I disagree.
We actually discussed this earlier, how there was only, of all the plot hooks for Jason, there was only one of them that was left open
at the time.
And that was the rivalry with Goldar. Jason, and that could have been done in one episode or one two-parter where Jason finally takes down Goldar.
Yeah. The trouble is, Jason, I will argue, it was necessary to bring him back in a later season. He needs to come back. And the reason he needs to come back later is because later seasons opened up plot threads with him. Now, if you disagree, Austin McNeil, feel free. Your views are always appreciated here. I understand you're a big Jason fan, and you know what?
For good reason.
Yeah. There's the thing with the Gold Ranger thing. Well, okay. My view is I don't know about Jason becoming Gold Ranger, but him coming back in Zeo in some capacity was a good idea. I don't know, maybe like to an extent. Well, I was just thinking for a minute. I was wondering if there was. Well, anyways, him coming back in Zeo made sense. In space makes sense. Even to an extent, Lost Galaxy. There were plot hooks and threads that meant he should come back. The thing about Billy was that Billy still had, well, there was the matter of him having to still overcome some self-confidence issues. And also, how is he going to, now that he's learned how to fight, now that he's learned grace and confidence, how is he going to grow from here? Like, this is just the beginning. Where does he go from here now that he's a savage fighter and a great martial artist? And they took him in a different direction where he has to learn to kind of mesh with a guy who's the opposite of him. That is to say, Rocky. And Billy seemed very attached at the start of season 2 to Zach. So Zach's gone, and in some ways, it's not Adam who's replaced Zach, but Rocky. So he's got to try to figure out how to work this relationship while missing Zach. And there's also, I think, an attachment on Billy's end towards Jason. So he's got to also figure out how to deal with the fact that Jason has been replaced to an extent. Now, on Jason's end, I think that given that there wasn't much more you could do with him to an extent at the time, without just rehashing the Green Ranger power loss story over and over again, which got tiring, but it was an important plot thread. Now, they had kind of written themselves into a corner, as I said before. And so I think Jason leaving for a time made sense. Now, bringing back the idea of the Green Ranger thing in a later season makes perfect sense. But there needed to be a break period, at least in my opinion, so that he could develop off screen and slowly, you could basically have him in his own corner, so to speak, and then come back. Now, I don't think to an extent, like Zach, character journey done. Trini, outside of Richie, character journey pretty much finished. Jason was the one who did not, his character journey was not finished. And yeah. Real quick, we're going to switch over to Twitch. Gotta go, guys. Short session for me tonight. Yeah. No problem. See you Friday. Yeah, we're definitely going to do that Pokemon thing. I'm kind of leaning towards maybe us trying to share all 3 screens or something for a maybe Pokemon Crystal or emulator match, because honestly, I don't know how to access Soul Silver on computer and get it running properly with an emulator or something. I don't have a physical copy of Soul Silver. I'll only play games on emulators if I have a physical copy, because I just don't feel comfortable doing it any other way. So it's not on others. If others don't have a physical copy, that's fine. I just need it. No worries. I know how to get a Nintendo emulator. No problem. Yeah, I'm thinking Pokemon Crystal because it's DS. I mean, okay, no problem. I just have a hard time getting them running. So maybe we stick to GBA or whatever and Crystal. It's a good Gen 1, Gen 2 thing. Anyways, enough about Pokemon. Oh, and do take care of Porter, 1992. You're always welcome here. Now, now with Austin, actually, I'll make one correction to our statement about Jason. They did need to bring him back for that final battle in the Tower of Rita and Zed. That would have been the perfect closeout for Jason's arc in Mighty Morphin, actually, in hindsight. Because you have the whole Green Ranger thing that would have been thrown in his face. Like, I think that maybe Goldar should be slain in hindsight as a prelude to storming the fortress. You know what I mean? Like, Zack, Trini, and Jason make a comeback, but maybe it does need to be Jason who kills off Goldar. And maybe replace him with Master Vile to an extent. Well, during the season, I think it's the episode after White Light, Billy fought Goldar unmorphed. Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, the thing is, Billy was able to take on... I'm just making a quick correction to a drawing because I just realized I really screwed it up. Anyways, the trouble is they basically... I think the term is they warped Goldar, and like it's important that they kind of do so to build up Billy, Kim, Tommy, but the trouble is the one character who's kind of that doesn't work. Sorry, it's just there's something about this drawing I did that is sticking out at me every time I look at it. Anyways, I gotta stop glancing at it. Maybe I'll just turn the page over because it's driving me bonkers. I gotta stop glancing. Anyways, sorry about that. It's just when I look at my own artwork or my own writing, I always see the imperfections. Anyways, yeah. Billy was able to, I think, measure up pretty well against Goldar. So Jason needed to, at some point, fight him. Now, Goldar remaining a villain throughout the rest of season 2 makes sense, but I think maybe they definitely should have had something like a 10-episode special about the fall of Lord Zed and Rita and whatnot at the time. So maybe, yeah, Jason should close out his rivalry with Goldar. And maybe that was the only thing left with Jason. And then, you need to storm the fortress. Kim needs to finish off Rita, and Tommy needs to finish off Zed or something. And Master Vile should probably be a team effort. Him and maybe Rito. And I only argue in favor of this due to plot threads. But on the other hand, I think that, like, outside the Goldar thing, like in the context of Mighty Morphin, Trini, Zack, and Jason kind of got all the character development they could get. It was time for, like the Stone Canyon trio to come in, and it was time to, you kind of hit a brick wall. But on the other hand, Zack and Jason definitely needed to come back in a few seasons. And the fact that, to an extent, that didn't happen, it's a bit of a crime.
Because the effects of the Turbo movie were Jason was the one mind controlled by the villain
and turned into a damsel.
Yeah, that Joe has mentioned that could have been addressed either in Turbo or in space.
Yeah,
and I like the idea of in space because it gives a bit of time to build up.
But even if he doesn't destroy Goldar, like having Jason be the one who defeats Divatox, maybe in a 3-part fight episode, would have been freaking awesome.
And that would have also dealt with something else.
He surpassed Goldar.
He never got his emotional conclusion with Goldar. So Goldar's already dealt with. What next?
Well, yeah, but with the Divatox thing, now he gets closure with the Divatox thing. Now, on the other hand, this means that maybe there's not much more you can do with Jason after the end of In Space or something. Well, you could bring him back in Lost Galaxy in the Psycho Ranger fight. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, after that, there's not much more to do with him because
it would be a good time to retire the character.
For a short time, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know there's that recent season from 2019, I think, where they brought him back. But
yeah.
But him as a instructor's or in a Captain Mitchell type role is kind of a good idea. So I'm just arguing in favor of like the larger franchise. Yeah, bring him back, Austin McNeil. But in terms of Mighty Morphin, there needed to be a shift. Like we need to move the camera away because at the time they had run out of ideas with him. And even I think you've written yourself into a corner with the character. It's not the actor's fault. It's not the character's fault. It's the fact that you rode into a wall. Zach, for the time being, there's not much more you can do with him.
Yeah, and it's
but on the other hand, Billy, there's still so much more to do, and the trouble is, Billy as a character is fundamentally impassioned and obsessed with the Power Ranger life. So he's got to stay on the team. Then again, I really like Tanya as a character, but Billy stepping down as a Ranger in that first Zeo episode makes no sense. So, like in the context of the pre-movie period in season 2, like leading up to the 1995 movie, Billy is gaining in confidence and obviously probably learning all the Rangers are teaching each other different martial arts styles and whatnot. So Billy is growing, and by the time of the movie, he's a ferocious fighter. The French term I think of when I look at Billy fight in those last few season 2 episodes and in the movie is farouche, which is a bit almost loner, almost very fierce, and like a bear or something, like a grizzly. And that's kind of the context of the. I'm not doing a good job translating farouche to English here, but it's kind of like that. You kind of imagine a grizzly bear or a great white shark, but on the other, it's a bit like a Musashi type adjective, I think it would be, or descriptor. But with Tommy, he's become the real cool guy by the time of the movie, but he's growing from that shy, almost broken Green Ranger into the proud, regal, Aragorn type White Ranger guy that we see by the end of the season 2 and at the beginning of the movie. And there's something I really like about what Austin McNeil actually, let me go back up, said here is that, and I hope you don't mind, I'll read this into your comment, Austin McNeil, because I really like your input in these streams, is that you have subtly, I think, acknowledged that Tommy was needed and that there was still much more to be done with Tommy as a character. And now I'm going to make another weird argument for the removal of Jason. Jason had become an emotional crutch for Tommy. So long as Jason is around, Tommy is not going to be Tommy's dependent. Tommy will be weakened in a way because he'll want to emotionally kind of use Jason like a tricycle wheel. And Jason will volunteer for that role because Jason, honestly, of all the Rangers, Tommy is the one Jason loves the most. And the thing is, this is what's good. It's like Leo and Mike Corbett, and that's actually, I think, a great comparison. And I think that Jason needs to be away from Tommy because Jason has kind of become like Matt, also from Digimon. Without TK, who is Matt Ishida? Or who, without Leo, who is Mike Corbett? And that's the thing. Jason needs to learn who Jason is. And Tommy needs to, for 1 minute, not have Big Brother's protection so that Tommy can grow and learn and become the man he was meant to be. And kind of become worthy of Kimberly as her lover, but also become worthy of the faith Zordon places in him. So the two need to be separated for a time so that they can grow, not apart, but grow in different spaces, away from each other. Now, Tommy needs to grow into becoming the greatest ranger, which he does. Jason needs to learn, like, thing is, Tommy needs to learn not to depend on Jason, and Jason needs to learn Tommy doesn't need his protection. And that now what's great about Zeo is that Tommy's kind of semi-regressing character-wise, and Jason is seeing this and trying to lend a helping hand constantly, because this is essentially his surrogate brother. So that in the movie, Tommy finally, like, the movie's great because the Turbo movie's great because it just, for Tommy, it takes the blows he's been receiving throughout Zeo and turns it into an overall character arc so that Tommy can finally, I guess, rise to the occasion and prove he doesn't need Jason to an extent anymore. Like, I don't mean that dismissively of Jason, more that Tommy's finally become the man Zordon always wanted him to be and knew he could be. Now, he was that man as the White Ranger, but as the Red Ranger, he started to crack. But then, in Turbo movie, he rises again. And for Jason, I think it's interesting that the idea that he needed to fall behind a little. And this is where, had they pursued the plot threads from the movie of Turbo, they could have really taken Jason in some awesome directions. But Saban, and sorry if I don't mean that. It's just, it's frustrating. But anyways, Jason was the tricycles wheels. They needed to remove them. But on the other hand, in a way, Tommy being needy in a way, Jason needed that. Because Billy didn't need Jason's protection. And Jason was always protecting Billy. But now Billy doesn't need him. But Tommy does. So the thing is, what Jason needs is not someone to protect to an extent, but he needs to find himself by always protecting Billy or Tommy or I don't know, or Kat, let's say, or Emily. He needs to find himself. And having Jason go on this character, on this journey would have been great. Heck, even if he got his own solo season, it would have been around the time of In Space. It would have worked great. So, yeah. Sorry. The thing is, I'm not the biggest Jason fanboy. Like, my feelings towards him from a 0 to 4 is like a 2. I'm like, he's a good Ranger, I guess. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, I look at, rewatch the Turbo movie every once in a while, and I just go, that right there, that right there. There's, you've got an entire season or 3. I don't know. There's so much you need to do with the character.
Because I don't know. Because I like the fact that they wanted to reuse Jason.
But they didn't reuse him enough.
Because in Zeo, I find that he was misapplied.
Yeah.
After Turbo, that would be the time. After the team switch, that would be the time to bring in Jason. Because he needs a fresh start.
Maybe he should have been Turbo Blue and then, or something, instead of Justin.
Maybe. And I had the passing thought maybe Jason could have trained Justin instead of Tommy.
That could have worked too, I guess.
Yeah, which would build a bit of the bond between the movie and the team.
On the other hand, maybe, I don't know, him coming back in the capacity of Silver Ranger or Red Ranger of the In Space crew would have been great. Now that would mean Andros would have to get a different color, because I do think In Space did need Andros as a Ranger to survive.
Maybe Silver.
Yeah,
That would mean that sure, he'd come in part way through, but that would be a bit of an impact, a bit of build up.
But yeah, I guess I just think that him coming back as Red again would have been pretty cool.
Yeah,
and would have been fitting. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like part of my mentality about Jason being Silver. He's now being put in the Tommy role when Tommy came back as the White Ranger.
I guess
now it's Jason's turn to do that.
I guess I just find that the problem with the Silver Ranger powers is that because it's so soon since Mighty Morphin, it casts him in the shadow of Tommy. And I guess I'm very reluctant to see him put in that shadow.
That's fair. Because it would fall back to the entire Jason and Tommy thing.
To an extent, yeah.
And they need to...
Now, by Lightspeed Rescue, it had been, what, like half a decade? Almost? So, and I kind of find that there was so much time, and because there was a Silver Ranger in between, Mighty Morphin and Lightspeed Rescue, and you kind of had Lost Galaxy, it had been kind of diluted enough that you can get away with this. But putting Aisha in the role of a Silver Ranger is one thing, but putting Jason, I just find it links back to that, and I'm very reluctant to put Jason in any kind of shadow of Tommy, because yeah, you subtly need to do it, but to do it that overtly, I find is I just get reluctant and nervous, because for me it's like, okay, we have to be careful with that, because otherwise you're bludgeoning the point over people's heads. And on the other hand, I don't know, I just found that maybe Andros as Silver would have been pretty interesting. I was never a fan of Jane. I just didn't understand why the character was present, because I guess I just found that even as a kid, Jane and Andros kind of blurred together, and Andros was the character with the better arc. So why have Jane?
Because part of me wondered what was the point of Jane, because the first time I saw him was in the Psycho Ranger arc.
Same.
Here it is, he'd come in as Psycho Silver, could have done so much with that, instead he just unmasks himself.
It's like, okay, so you're just gonna troll. Get the off the screen, like, to an extent. It was like,
and he played no role.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just found that he didn't have any presence. So I do kind of like Andros as a character. So I don't know. Maybe if people disagree and love Jane, hey, it's been years since I saw it In Space, so I'm not gonna say like we're speaking with any kind of authority. So if people want to disagree. And if you want to do it vehemently, do so. Hey, I can say it in the comment section. We don't mind. Actually, it'd be interesting to see the point of views that some people have about Jane. I just find that I didn't really care. And whereas with Carlos, he amused me because he just seemed really dumb. He seemed dumber than Bulk and Skull, and I just found him funny for that reason. Like, he was a good punching bag to an extent, or a good butt monkey. That's it. Sorry, it's just I blanked on the English term. You had, of course, TJ and Cassie, who are awesome. You have Ashley, who's there to be a love interest, and you have Andros, who, of course, you actually need him for In Space. Like, no, like he's the inciting force for the season. So you can't have In Space without Andros, because like he's what kind of helps the Rangers like go from turbo to the In Space powers. You must have Andros. But I also find that the season was missing something. And having Jason with his fierce, ferocious, lion-like temper, I think would have really like the thing is, you have Cassie who's impulsive. You have kind of Carlos who's impulsive, but he doesn't do as much as other Rangers to an extent. Let's say TJ or Cassie. You have TJ who's well. The main thing I'm saying is that Carlos is constant and Cassie are constantly pulled back by TJ. Who's like, "Whoa, there, Skipper. Let's actually let's look at the situation. Let's examine. I want to think about the situation. I want to approach it from a analytical point of view, like what Billy or Tommy might." And the thing is, where Tommy could properly balance impulsive characters like Aisha and at times Rocky, and even he could also be very calculative, analytical, strategic, like say Billy or Kim. TJ was purely analytical as a leader, and he's a great leader. But having Jason in there, where Jason's like, let's charge, let's throw down, let's be impulsive, and I've got this temper and whatnot. But on the other hand, having Jason be like protective of TJ and not, because TJ's essentially Tommy's Padawan, it would create a really interesting dynamic. And of course, you have Jason and Cassie who would just set each other. Well, I don't think they not get along. The problem with Cassie and Jason is they get along too well, and they just kind of do the Aisha and Rocky thing of instigating each other, but in a different way. And they're going to encourage each other's tempers. And I think that'd be fascinating so that TJ doesn't have control in a way over the team. But you have the Rangers getting more and more impulsive. And I think that'd be sorry, as a writer, I'm like, this is so that would be so fascinating. But anyways, this was not supposed to be a Jason stream. Somehow it became one. But yeah, in the lead up to the movie, on Kim's end, she's basically growing from probably one of the prime fighters of the team, because at the beginning of season 2, she's a prime fighter. Like, she went from being more a prime physical fighter to being an emotionally and spiritually more well-rounded person. So that her combat abilities were growing throughout season 1, but emotionally, she was still, it seems to me like she was still kind of caught. But then what we see in like the student council president episode is her outgrowing her childhood, and her kind of going from the little girl we knew, I say little girl, but you know what I mean, the girl we knew in season 1 to a different person. And she's growing into a leader. That's my point. Like, she's growing into a funny, quirky, almost like a female Zach, or yeah, probably a female Zach or something, but with TJ's level-headed leadership qualities. So she becomes a very, very fascinating leader.
I know that one consistent thing that happened was that she was jealous of Trini on a lot of Trini's traits. And those traits that she was jealous of Trini, she developed.
Yeah, but she needed. It's kind of like she needed to be apart from Trini to gain those virtues and qualities. It's a very fascinating thing. Yeah, you know what? In hindsight, they definitely needed to bring back the other original trio, because it would have been interesting for, like, can you imagine Trini kind of coming face to face with the fact that Kim's outgrown her now, and Kim is now would be almost like, because when they left, Trini was like this vastly older sister, but now Kim's kind of like, all right, I'm leader now. You do this, you do that, and I'm leading the team and whatnot. It would have been great. He could have been the Phantom Ranger. There's an idea. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, I completely forgot about the Phantom Turbo Ranger. I know Karen Ashley expressed that in hindsight she wished she could have come back as a Silver Turbo Ranger. And I know people might say, well, that's 7 Power Rangers with Aisha and Jason coming back. Yes, but it would have been a great season with those two coming back. Sorry. Yeah, he definitely could have been the Phantom Ranger.
Trini, funny enough, would probably be very proud. And
yeah, I think it would have been awesome. And she would have been very, very proud of Kim. For Zach, honestly, him and Rocky would have been funny. But
they probably would have escalated on.
But I think it would have also been interesting because Zach probably would have played a bit of an older brother type of role to Adam. He would have wanted to encourage Adam at the time, because we have to bear in mind that Adam was kind of the baby brother of the entire Power Rangers team. And it would have been interesting to see Zach kind of put in the Trini position to an extent. To a limited extent. With Jason and Rocky, I would propose there probably would have been a different dynamic than what we see in Zeo, with maybe Rocky Jason probably finding Rocky a little too much of a easygoing guy. Purple and Orange Rangers?
Oh,
what?
boy, in the Boom Studio comics.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. So, no.
That is a storyline that when I read the comics, I skipped.
Yeah. And my view is anything that's not the TV series, I don't really consider it. Like, I don't really care about it.
It's like those Bulk and Skull centric episodes.
Hey, I like some of them.
Yeah, but some of them got into the ridiculous.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it was temporary.
Oh, okay.
Like one very minor storyline.
Since it's all based on cars, Jason would have Trans AM, and the morpher he'd use would have to be different from the others. Oh yeah. That was definitely the 6 Ranger powers that he probably should have gotten. I'm still very married to the idea of Billy as Gold Ranger, just to tie it together, and it's just the Billy fanboy in me is just like, my Billy.
Jason, they should have waited an extra season after Zeo
and give him a good pay raise.
Yeah, and
sorry if I sound waspish about that, but it's just the amount they paid those actors. Anyways, but yeah, having it all kind of round out perfectly in the last 10 episodes or so with, not to mention it would have been, like I said, I think Rocky would have annoyed Jason at first because, Rocky's very light-hearted and whatnot. But on the other hand, I think Rocky's rational side coming out would have, I think Jason would have kind of come to appreciate it a bit later, like after an episode, because he'd go, oh, this guy's not just a class clown. He's got a lot of brains, and, he fights like, say, Kurama from Yu Yu Hakusho. He likes to kind of give the enemy enough rope to hang themselves and just examine and whatnot the larger enemy until he knows how they tick to an extent. Like, the thing is, if you pay attention in the movie, Rocky's very, very strategic and very level-headed at times, even if he's got that Red Ranger temper. Remember, like, you better pack your bags because we're sending you back where you came from. Mm-hmm. That was just such a great line. But, yeah, Jason and Rocky would have had really awesome dynamic, chemistry. What I hate is that, okay, you brought back Jason in Zeo. Have Jason and Rocky interact more. But they didn't really have them interact too much. It was such a tease. Kim grew along with Trini, adapting. They both are superior. Okay, I'm actually going to object to that. I'm going to say I find Aisha better than Trini in terms of leadership skills. Now, I'm biased because I love Aisha. She's my favorite Yellow Ranger. But if you prefer Trini, go ahead. But that said, I'm going to say that Trini stopped growing after a while because by the time Zed comes in, Trini's getting exhausted. She's, she's kind of being relegated to the background in marked contrast to the other Rangers.
She's more of a
pacifist.
emotional rock for the team rather
Yeah.
than a leader.
Now,
Where she mentors them.
now the totally different philosophies of Aisha and Trini is that Trini is a pacifist, while Aisha is a berserker. So you've got now. I'm actually going to say what I think about Trini and Aisha is that they would make a great team, because Trini would say, "Whoa, whoa, cowgirl, whoa, slow down there. Why are you racing off to the next war?" And we also got to bear in mind Aisha had a problem with power in the second half of the season, because the fire awareness episode. Because Aisha is someone who charges in. She bites her shield like a Norse shield maiden, goes berserk, and just starts trashing every enemy around her, with all of them flying all over. But the problem is she's charging. Trini would say, "Whoa, slow down there." Now, Aisha's smart, but once the battle starts, that's it. She's jumping in. Or if there's an adrenaline situation, she's winking over at Rocky going, "Oh, let's compete." Trini would say, "Okay, Aisha, stop for a second. You gotta like." Aisha is basically a female Jason or Leo Corbett, but Trini is Mr. Miyagi. So Trini's gonna say, "Daniel-san, what do you see?" And actually, Aisha's a lot like Danny LaRusso as well from Karate Kid. So if the two were put on the same set, Trini would definitely be a mentor. And Aisha would need that. And so that's where, okay, I somehow started examining two characters who were not Yoji Tsuya. But on the other hand, Kim, I very much think is superior to Kat as a character. Kat is much more like Trini, but I think that Kat in her own right was a great character. And in the context of Zeo, oh my gosh, it was such a great, she had such great episodes.
And I don't think Kat would have wanted Dad to be a leader.
No, she's not a leader. Tommy is regarded as the best ranger of all time in general. But I still feel that was Jason's spot. I disagree. I find Tommy is the greatest, but that is due to the context of Mighty Morphin and him being the leader at the time of Ivan Ooze, which is probably the biggest hurdle any Power Ranger team ever had to face. You have the Zeo lineup where Tommy did not have, given what he's dealing with his previously repressed memories regarding his childhood coming out, so family drama, mixed with Kim not being there as his crutch, Billy not being on the powered lineup, Tommy is struggling with more emotional issues than ever before. And I don't think any other character, even Jason, could have overcome the issues Tommy does at that point. And then you've got, of course, Turbo, where Rocky's now removed from the situation. Adam's getting fairly impulsive and wanting to show off a lot for Tanya. I noticed that in a bit of the Turbo movie. And I remember that being a bit of a thing in the early Turbo stuff. And having to train TJ, Tommy's really struggling with a lot. But somehow he still keeps it all together, overcomes everything. And then you have, of course, Dino Thunder. So, and I regard TJ as one of the greatest. And I think that he owes a lot to Tommy's training. So I just think that Tommy kind of had more challenges than any other Ranger. Now, if you prefer Jason, more power to you. I'll not disrespect it. I actually kind of get it. Jason himself is a good character. Fair enough. Good points. I think that's in regard to the Trini and Aisha thing. Yeah. I have to admit, I really like Trini. As a kid, I don't think I ever really gave her much thought, but after rewatching Mighty Morphin, I really like Trini. Plus, during Green No More, when they were trapped and Tommy was sent off for the fight of his life, Trini was reduced to tears, although she was worried, so I guess it's okay. Yeah. Trini is very much a big sister. The way Trini and Kim developed was due to their background and family relationships. Kim's family relationship was more challenging.
Oh, that's put it lightly.
Yeah, very good observations, Revel. I really can't disagree. Trini had a very stable family situation, which I really like that, because now what I liked is that you had a few Rangers with stable family situations, but it was integral that Trini have that. What I like I said, I really like that Trini was Mr. Miyagi, and I think Kim in some ways was like a female version of Danny LaRusso, but the thing is, she's not exactly the same character, because Kim's very feminine, Danny LaRusso is very masculine. You got those differences. Yeah, she grew up poorer. Yeah, she had to be more grown up. Yeah, you're right. You're very much right about that, Revo. She came. I kind of got the impression that, well, we know for a fact that Aisha, Rocky, and Adam kind of grew up together. Now, if I had to hazard a guess, I'd say that, weirdly, although, like, it might be possible that Rocky and Adam also grew up fairly poor. I'm just hazarding a guess, but each of the three developed in different ways from that. Aisha had to mature really quick. Rocky, in some ways, had to mature very quick, but he learned to cover it up and become the class clown and make people laugh. On the other hand, as we see in Zeo, he does have his insecurities. So he obviously hid them. They're there, but he hid them in a very masculine way. On the other hand, he has a temper. And we know that Rocky's not used to seeing adults confide their vulnerabilities and seeing adults vulnerable. Because there's the one teacher episode where the teacher admits, you know what, like, I don't know what I'm doing in life. And, like, I struggle too, Rocky. And Rocky's shocked. And so, on the other hand, Rocky is very much Adam's protector. Like, I really love the relationship between Rocky and Adam. Like, you clearly get the impression of big brother, little brother. And they're also almost twins. And you have Adam, who developed into a shy, timid kid, one who is entirely codependent on Aisha and Rocky, and who's also in the uncomfortable position of, at least I got the impression, kind of watching his two best friends get together and realizing he's becoming the third wheel. So, and that's a terrible situation to be in. Like that third wheel kind of, I don't want to be the third wheel, include me. But on the other hand, I'm in the way. So and Aisha's trying to kind of play mom to him, but like, this is weird. On the other hand, Rocky, on the other hand, now that I think about it, seems to lack confidence in his own brains. He's intelligent, he just doesn't realize it. He's like Kim in that regard. So the trio, if you were to tell me they're all poor, I could believe it. But they reacted to it in different ways that are all believable. But Aisha in particular grew up poor. And she had to become hardworking. She had to develop ingenuity. She's strong. She's fierce. And I would argue part of her temper comes out from that and her over-responsible side. But she also grew up having to play big sister to these two boys. So she kind of became their protector. And the problem is, arguably to an extent, she kind of began smothering them. And while I know the Rocky Aisha pairing is popular, it's also apparent that Rocky's trying to find his own feet in a way, apart from her to an extent. And Adam's trying to figure himself out. So she's very wise in some ways, noticing this and pulling back, but in other ways she doesn't. She keeps smothering. Like you noticed that with Adam. And I think in one or two episodes with Rocky, she's still smothering. But she also tries to smother Billy and Bulk and Skull. Like Bulk and Skull, she treats like her babies. And I still find it funny that the first time she realizes that Bulk and Skull can be a little slow at times is the one fortune teller episode where she's looking at them like she's just like the glass in How I Met Your Mother just broke, like over her
There
head.
goes
She's
the rose-tinted glasses.
yeah, she's just utterly shocked, and I like how she's just staring at them like,
Are you serious?
how are these my babies? And meanwhile, Rocky's got this like
Oh boy, I can't wait.
Rocky's like a predator. He's just smirking like a hyena.
It's like, oh, this train wreck's going to end well.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, I think by the time of the Stone Canyon trio come in, the OG trio did need them in a way. Billy needed, weirdly, Billy needs to be thrust into a older brother role in a way, or like the wiser one and the more mentor-like one. He needs to be cast in the role of Trini. I guess I should say, because he's been depending on Zach, Trini, and Jason this whole time, but he needs to be the Trini, and he needs to be the more mentoring one between him and Rocky. On the other hand, the best kind of teacher and student bonds in literature are those where student and teacher learn from each other, where the student's also the teacher in a way. You look at the Rocky film, the first two films with Rocky and his mentor. Why am I blanking on it? Anyways, him and his mentor, his coach. The thing is, Rocky is teaching his teacher to unwind and learn to find his ability to love again. Because remember that, like, you have that scene where the guy's like, let me teach you, let me give you all that I know, Rocky. But Rocky thinks his coach is coming in a predatory manner. You know, like, 6 years I've been trying to get your attention. And for 6 years, you haven't given me even the time of day. And it's only because I have this big match now? Come on, man. But on the other hand, Rocky soon realizes, oh, I really hurt him. So they're learning from each other as much about boxing as they are about life. Mr. Miyagi is learning from Danny about, it's not about how hard you hit, but how hard you can take a hit and keep on getting up. And Mr. Miyagi forgot that lesson because he didn't get it back up after World War II. He stayed down. And it's through Danny that he learns to get back up. And so Billy is learning from Rocky to just relax, enjoy life. And you have, how does the power scaling differ between the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger transformations and ninja transformations? Initially, the ninja transformations was seen as better, but later original suits were regarded as superior. Okay, I'll get to that in a minute. But very good question. Love the Rocky films, mainly 1 through 4. Although I liked 5 and 6 was a really good ending. I really love number 6.
Yeah,
Number 6 is one of my favorites because, well, I love Dan's fan theory that Rocky is dead by the end of the film, and the reason he thinks he's dead is just that he walks away into the sunlight, like in one of those films where the characters walk off towards the pearly gates. And I really love that idea that we saw the entirety of Rocky's life, and Rocky walks off into the sunset, and where he needed to either survive or it's his spirit or something. We needed to help Polly, his son, and even the one world champion find their place before he goes and joins Adrienne. And that the thing about Rocky is the thing he wants the most in life is to go join Adrienne at that point because he lost her. And where I think it was Dan who came up with the idea. You came up with the idea that if he's still alive, he has terminal.
Yeah, and it was, for a moment I thought it was like Field of Dreams.
Yeah, I very much think like that. He's my favorite actor. He didn't forget where he came from. Oh, yeah, I know. That's great. Yeah. I really love Stallone. I really love his movies. When I first saw the Adam, Rocky, Aisha trio, I felt a vibe of aggression, a threat to the original Rangers. I don't know why. Nor could I shake that feeling. Really? I never got that sense.
I think it's like sports teams.
Yeah.
You bonded with these three characters, and the prospect of needing to let go was difficult.
Um, Zed took the wings from Goldar when he assigned him onto Rita's squad of sorts. That was a demotion. He demoted Goldar, I think, either due to treachery or incompetence, or a mixture of the two reasons.
Yeah, Goldar has a habit of treachery.
And we know that Goldar was massively kind of neutered in terms of power. But once he got his wings back, it's not just physical wings, but it's also power. Like he's much more powerful with his wings. So I would argue that he probably was stripped of like 70% of his ability, of his power, and he's back at 100. That said, when it comes to, I think that for Kim, she needed to maybe not. I think that another reason why she needed the bond with Aisha was that she needed. It's just weird. Aisha's more like a mother. Trini's more like an older sister, and she needed not an older sister, but a mom in a way. But on the other hand, she needed a bestie. And the thing is, someone who was not a type B personality, but a type A like her, someone to get excited with.
An extrovert.
Yeah.
Rather than an introvert.
Yeah. Because I think in some ways, Kim is more introverted deep down. And she needed someone to pull her out of her shell, not to get. Trini encouraged her to think more. Kim needed to get out of her own head in a way. Tommy, now, like, she is kind of dating Trini because Tommy's a lot like Trini, but Kim needed not another Trini, but someone else in a way. When it comes to Tommy and, like, Tommy, I think needed to learn more. He needed to learn to share Kim when it comes to Aisha, because that was, I think, a bit of a minor subplot, with the whole fire awareness thing. Tommy was not taking well to sharing his girlfriend. He needed to learn to do that. On the other hand, Tommy seemed to really bond with Rocky. And I think that Tommy just easily flowed into the same kind of relationship as he did with Jason and Zach. With Adam, what's so fascinating is that it brought out the gentler side in Tommy. Because Kim, Rocky, Billy, Aisha, they bring out the more masculine, like the more macho part of Tommy's character, which is important and great. Adam brought out more the gentler side, the more Trini-like side. And he definitely needed that as a character. I felt that Rocky needed to have the last fight. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That was Dan's point. Even though it's scripted, here a lot of these two pro wrestlers I grew up watching talk about, they didn't get the ending they wanted. Yeah, I think Rocky needed to kind of have that draw, because it's kind of a draw between him and the new guy. But I think that in that Rocky 6 fight, it needed to have, Rocky needed to give the guy his confidence. And yeah, like I said, I just like the idea that it's like it's like his bucket list or something. He needs to have one last fight before he goes. But he needs to also do it for his opponent, because the guy needs a worthy foe.
Passing of the torch.
Yeah. The same guy that voiced Goldar voiced Jeb the dog on VR Troopers. Oh, I had no idea. Cool. So it is basically a transformation for Goldar. Yeah. Now, as for the ninja transformation, I always fall in on the side that the ninja transformations are better. Well, I don't mean like the costume, like the ninjetti outfit. I mean like the full morphing sequence. Like White Ranger powers is better than say
Tiger Zord,
or the Pink Ranger power better than Pterodactyl. But in my head, I'm weird. I just love the movie so much. I tend to think ninjetti morphing. So it's like the frog, the black frog, the white falcon, the pink crane, and that, but then again, I'm weird because I don't like Ninjor. I like Dulcia. Ninjor, it's just the voice. Yeah. But if you love Ninjor, love him. what happened to Zed's Dark Rangers? Yeah, they were stripped of their powers, but they are still at Angel Grove, right? I believe so. Are they still bullied? Do they know the Ranger? I don't think they knew the Rangers' identities. So I don't think they were bullied. They remained loose friends with the Rangers, though they maybe should have brought back one or two of them in a later season. I'm just saying, like, you could have brought them back as extras in Lightspeed Rescue or something. Or in another season, made them one of them an actual Ranger. That would have been neat. There's a lot of ideas that could have been used. But you know what? Then again, I'm in favor, despite my... Oh. The reason for asking, they always undergo the ninja transformation, then they go to the MPR transformations afterwards. Yeah, I know, that was kind of weird. But I guess I kind of look at it as... I'd say that the full transformation, like let's say Tyrannosaurus or whatever transformation is stronger than the Ninjetti or like the ninja outfit. Because, well, or like, okay, I'd say it has 0.75% of the power of, let's say, the Tyrannosaurus transformation. It's almost as good, but not quite. But then in turn, you've got from doing the actual like White Ranger powers or Pink Ranger powers or whatever with the Ninjetti, Red Ape, Yellow Bear, and whatnot. Probably has the stacked powers. I'd say probably stacks. That'd be my guess. So that you have almost two transformations, or like a half transformation, then a full transformation, so that you have 1.5 power or 2.0 powers. But that's my view because I'm biased in favor of the later Mighty Morphin abilities. And because those I regard as the best of any series. But that's where I'm biased. On the other hand, if people disagree. Go ahead. But it's a kind of slower progression towards the morphing. Like, you know what I mean? It's like morphing in stages. That's kind of, I think, the best way of putting it. Maybe different properties, like the Zords. Yeah. Ninja pointed out they are more agile, whereas the old suits are armored and thus slow. Yeah, I think it kind of works like that. I'd say the new suits are armored, but also agile. So it has the advantages of both. So that's how I kind of regard it.
Yeah, it's like aspects of their abilities evolved.
But they are more agile in the ninja outfits. But I'd say that they retain that quality and that advantage when they're morphed in the new outfits, so to speak. Or I should say the Ninjetti morphs, or whatever. But like I said, I'm biased towards the movie because I want the movies to mean something. If not, they're like, what's the point?
Yeah, same here. I prefer Delphia over Ninja or myself.
But it also has to do with the hidden power and Ivan Ooze and the character arcs.
I felt more emotionally invested with Delphia because it felt like there was something that...
Well, I'm also emotionally invested in the movie because you have Zordon, who's put for the ringer. You have Ivan Ooze, who raises the stakes. You've got... Everything is raised to an 11. But it's also the Turbo movie that, in hindsight, I really like because it puts... Like, we need these movies in continuity for there to be more stakes and for there to be... I don't know. There's emotional investment in them. And otherwise, what's the point of them? What was the point of them? They might as well have not been made. And I don't like that. I like these movies. When Tommy had to face his older suits, the Black, then White, and the Green Ranger. Yep. That was such an awesome episode. That's probably my top 5 favorite episodes of all times.
Yeah.
That episode is just... Oh my gosh, that was such a great episode. Yep. He's going from the latest to the oldest. I would argue no. Actually, of the three, I'd argue green is the weakest. And that has to do with the fact that um, for red, stronger than before, and we know that the red Zeo powers have almost no limits. Now, if you go by the movie, white is the strongest. And that has to do with the hidden power and whatnot, and the fact that when linked with the other 5 powers, he can revive people from the dead, which the power of creating life or recreating life is far stronger than destruction. That being said, white is also the white light of good and can never be corrupted. And it's strong. It's stated by Zordon in white light, it is stronger than the green. And so you have either white or red, which Zeo, which are the strongest of Tommy's abilities, I would argue. But the other factor I would argue is the thematic notion. Now, white is a divine color, and the way Tommy's presented as White Rangers as a angel descending from heaven, and or a god in the shape of a Balder or a Jimu descending down from the heavens, or the second Horus in Egyptian mythology. And these messianic characters, well, they're given a lot of emphasis and typically the color white, because it's a symbol of purity. Now in Japan, white is a color of death as well. But death, rebirth, and divinity are all interlinked with each other in countless mythologies around the world. So I would argue that the thematic notion leans towards white being the strongest. Red is the color of passion. So yeah, you do need divinity and passion intermixed there together. So I'd argue that white is the strongest, then red, and green's the weakest of the three, because green, there was the constant on, off, on, off, on, off. But on the other hand, Tommy often reverts back to green at times because he likes the color. And it's the OG color. They had cheap costumes. They could have brought the Die Ranger costumes from them. Yeah, true. I'm talking about the Dark Rangers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tommy showed his dark side at 3 different occasions. Calamity Kimberly, Zed's Dark Rangers, and another. He showed aggression against the Dark Rangers, bullying, and Bulk, evil smiles, etc. Yeah, he had some great moments. But Tommy did have an aggressive side. It's part of the divine masculine. Kimberly also had an aggressive side, as did Aisha. So, but on the other hand, as said, Tommy inherently is a good person. It's just, yeah, but we got to bear in mind, Bulk does do a lot of bullying. In the metallic version of the MMPR suits akin to the Green Ranger's shield. What do you mean metallic versions? I'm not sure I follow. It's because Tommy was mad because those guys were being really mean. Oh, yeah. At that point, we're goofballs that you loved. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the Dark Rangers were also... Yeah. But as for Calamity Kimberly, Vulcan Skull had crossed a bit of a line to her, and we're really, really making Kimberly feel 2 inches tall when she already felt. Well, it's just... I guess I regard it as a man should never reduce a girl to tears. And they were deliberately doing that, pushing her. And Tommy stood up for her. He was basically being the White Knight. The suits got an upgrade to metallic versions. Oh, really?
Okay.
I think, is that season 3? But I know in the movie they had better costumes, which looked great.
Yeah, I remember when the movie came out, a lot of the fans were pleading Saban to keep those costumes.
Yeah,
but
I think the actors the actors wanted those costumes to stay, because it would have meant they would have had to do all the stunts and moves, and you wouldn't have stock footage. But Saban is cheap.
Yeah, cutting corners is a habit of theirs,
sadly. Now, on the bright side, the actors got to keep the costumes, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I really, I really love those costumes. They were great. Season 3 Zords bought them with allowance money. Oh, yeah, I remember doing similar stuff. The Falcon Zord came by itself because I got it Christmas 1995. Ooh,
Yeah.
nice. Then I purchased the Ninja Zords and Shogun Zords afterwards. That's really cool. Oh, I know what costumes you mean. Yeah, they were great. Those costumes were great. No argument here. If only every generation of Power Rangers got their stuff. I don't know if I'd call it the Power Shield thing, but I think that I'm of the opinion that maybe all of them should have gotten a Power Shield eventually. But on the other hand, I could see why you wouldn't want to give it out to everyone because it might cheapen it. And, you need to elevate the White Ranger Power Shield.
Mhm.
On the other hand, I really like the Green Ranger Power Shield. And I would have liked to have seen the Pink and Yellow Rangers wear that at least once as well. And Blue. So that everyone got a turn with it. And it means more choice. I'm kidding. Actually, in hindsight, I really would have liked to see Blue and Pink with it. Pink because thematically Kim and Tommy, but Blue because Billy. Yep. I'm actually going to need to go in a few minutes.
Same.
So, and we also have to edit a Dragonlance video. So, yeah. We'll stop here, though I imagine people can keep going. We've talked about the trio and other stuff into the ground. Pink Ranger also already has white in her. Yes, she's the Pink and White Ranger. So it all ties in with Tommy. Of course it does. It always does with her. I'm joking. But yeah, she has the white in her costume as well, which that was cool. Oh, and what I really like is that someone's doing a lot of Power Ranger art over on Twitter, and they keep tagging me and sharing it with me. I don't know who that is. I think it's one of our subscribers. But I really like the art I'm seeing on Twitter of Power Rangers. So if that person is watching on, even our Twitter stream or on the Power Ranger Corner on Twitch, do keep sharing. I really love seeing that art, and I have been sharing some. And reposting it on my Twitter feed because I really like that art. I gotta ask that person at some point if I could maybe use some of the art in Power Ranger videos going forward. I can't pay any money, but I really like that art. It's really, 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 really good art. So you could easily find it on my Twitter. So or our Twitter, since we both share the same account.
Yeah.
So do check that out. It is the guy's really talented, better artist than I am. So do check that out. And do give him a follow. He's really talented. I forget his name because I'm getting a headache. One last closing statement. In the movie, I liked how they came up with gimmicks and weapons that weren't in the show. Yeah, same. The costumes stand out. They should have been used as the metallic armor. Yes, absolutely. They should have been. They absolutely should have been. And I just love all the gimmicks, all the different weapons. Man, I love the new helmets for the yellow and red Rangers. I had hoped that they'd give different helmet upgrades to each of the Rangers, to pink, blue, black, and white. And that we'd also see each of the Rangers with a secondary gimmick weapon or something. That would have been really, really cool. Maybe we'll have to come up with ideas for that stuff on the channel at some point. After I continue the more phenomenal weapons, I think it is, playlist. I should do a few more of those videos. They're very, very short. I'm going to continue that. I stopped at, I think, the Power Bow. You guys rock. Thanks for the analysis and information. You're the best. Oh, thanks. Cheers. Rob. Oh, well, have a great day, Rob. We're always glad to do analysis and provide any kind of info we can on Power Rangers. So as this franchise honestly is a very relaxing one to get into. And thank heavens it's stress free. So, and that it has such talented artists.
Yeah.
It's the only superhero franchise I'm still into. And honestly, we're always happy to supply any kind of analysis on this stuff. And we're glad that people are so open minded. Like, Austin McNeil really loves his Jason, and he's much more passionate about Jason than we are. But he, like, he remains subbed and he says, well, I disagree. I like my Jason and Kim. Okay. We prefer Jason and Tommy and Kim. So he goes, fair enough. Like, Revo here prefers, let's say, Trini and Kim over Kat and Aisha. I prefer Aisha and Kim. But it's chill and relaxed and whatnot. You should look into Dragon Ball. Yeah, we've been thinking about doing some Dragon Ball content on our Sci-Fi Corner. It's just, we're just getting some last minute content out for next week for our Fantasy Brothers Crin channel. We have one video for early next week for our Nightmare Reviews channel. And I want to do one Power Rangers video for next week. And of course, we're trying to revive our Pokemon Corner, which is more Dan's channel, as well as his gaming channel. So we're trying to revive all the different channels. But yeah, larger target market. Okay,
Yeah.
Good sound advice. Yeah, I want to do Barsoom novel videos on the Sci-Fi Corner. We've also been discussing doing Digimon and maybe Dragon Ball Z and Gundam on it. So I'd basically be nothing but sci-fi stuff there, science fiction. So we're thinking of doing that and some superhero stuff on that, because that superheroes is just science fiction, a subgenre of science fiction. Power Rangers needs to be its own corner because it's so great. And I honestly, I don't want to get clogged down in the algorithm or like, I just like my Power Rangers on its own. Had its own independent film. Yes, I love Ivanhoe. Love them. But anyways, we gotta get going. Do take care, everyone. It's too easy to get distracted by more discussions of Power Rangers. But anyways, Pokemon is not a bad idea, especially the classic Pokemon. Yeah, Dan's reviving that. Do go check it out if you want. It should be in our list of channels at the bottom of the main page of the Power Rangers Corner. And for those who are watching this on the rewatch, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button, as though you were Billy taking out a news monster. And remember, Rangers, may the power protect you.